A piercing scream shattered the silence of the vast forest. The two climbers looked up and instantly witnessed in horror the body of a young girl plunging from the top of the cliff hundreds of meters above like a meteor. The violent impact caused their safety ropes to shake vigorously. Both nearly lost their grip and fell into the abyss below. In that brief moment of life and death, they could not have known that the mysterious corpse's sudden appearance was merely the beginning of a terrifying series of events about to unfold. Not far away, veteran investigator Turner silently approached the treacherous cliff face. His cold eyes carefully studied every suspicious bloodstain scattered about. Deep inside, Turner knew this was not simply an accident from climbing. Rather, it was the first sign that something evil was lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. When he suddenly received an emergency call, he immediately rushed to the scene of the incident. A group of park rangers were already at the mountaintop gathering evidence. Turner worked in the criminal investigation unit, so his rank was considerably higher than these park rangers. The victim who had fallen off the cliff was a young woman, around 20 years old. However, since the area around the summit had been trampled chaotically, it was very difficult to determine if she had been alone or accompanied by someone else before her fall. Nearby, the two unlucky climbers sat resting in shock. They had seen almost nothing of what had happened on the summit since, by the time they looked up, the girl had already fallen. Turner did not get along with his colleague named Shu, so he completely ignored them and began his own investigation below. A park ranger finally reminded Turner that thunder was approaching, and neither the helicopter nor the rescue team could operate under such bad weather conditions. The best option was to retreat for today. However, Turner pretended not to hear this advice. He put on protective gear, preparing to descend the cliff to investigate clearly. The victim's body was still trapped below, at risk of being scavenged by wildlife. Moreover, if left overnight through the storm, the rope holding the corpse might loosen, causing the body to disappear entirely. Turner grabbed the rope and approached the corpse, swiftly taking photographs of every detail on the victim's body to collect evidence. Then Turner carefully examined the victim's injured wrists and ankles. Suddenly, the bracelet on the victim's wrist broke and scattered beads everywhere. Seeing that lightning was getting closer, Turner did not dare delay any longer and quickly hauled the corpse back up to the summit. A quick glance revealed that the severe injury on her left leg was definitely not caused by the fall. Moreover, in the victim's tightly clenched hand, there remained some black wool. This animal did not exist on the mountain, proving that before her fall, the victim had wandered around the mountain for quite some time. Yet, at this moment, her feet were bare without any shoes. Turner followed the bushes and rocky cliffs, examining carefully. He discovered a nearly dried, bloody handprint with faint blood droplets below it. Turner wanted to investigate further, but his dog Emma seemed aware of the storm approaching and kept circling anxiously around him. Feeling powerless, Turner decided to return to the police station first. After performing a preliminary examination of the victim's injuries, the forensic doctor concluded that due to the high speed of the fall, it was extremely difficult to distinguish clearly between old and new wounds. Only the injuries on her legs could be confirmed to have occurred before the fall. These bite marks were large enough to suggest an attack by wolves or domestic dogs. The wounds on her arms appeared to have been sustained as the victim tried desperately to fend off an animal attack. Furthermore, on the victim's body, there was a distinctive cross-shaped mark. This symbol was different from ordinary tattoos, as it was overlaid with a thin layer of gold. Any further details would have to wait for more thorough forensic analysis. Turner, for some unknown reason, felt the girl looked very familiar. Paul speculated that she might have been an employee recently working at Yosemite National Park. At this moment, the police had not yet come to any concrete conclusions about the case. However, the park manager had already read news reports claiming that someone had died due to wild animal attacks inside the park. He had no idea where the reporters had obtained such rapid information. The manager urged Paul to quickly investigate the case thoroughly. Visitors would not avoid the park just because of a suicide by jumping off a cliff, but they would certainly stay away because of rumors about animal attacks. This would cause severe damage to the park's revenue this year. Paul gently tried to calm the manager down, but Turner showed him no respect at all. Turner bluntly stated that he did not work for the park or its manager. The manager, hearing this, was not angry, but simply asked Turner if he would accept the Sanderson case. A woman named Avalos had disappeared in the park 6 years earlier, and her family somehow obtained new information requesting the case to be reopened. Normally, the manager wouldn't care, but Avalos's family was offering a very high reward, so he was eagerly pushing Turner to investigate. However, Turner had always refused similar requests in the past. The manager finally gave Turner's contact number to other investigators, telling them they could visit Turner whenever they were free. Ignoring the manager's words, Turner once again returned to the cliffside to look for the victim's bracelet beads that had fallen earlier. Fortunately, his effort paid off, and he successfully found them. Turner gazed up at the star-filled sky, unable to resist calling his ex-wife. He deeply missed the days when their whole family would watch meteor showers together. But Turner's ex-wife now had a new happy life and no longer felt like reminiscing about their shared past. She coldly warned Turner to stop getting drunk and calling her again. Hearing this, Turner only sighed in helplessness. The following morning, a female park ranger named Naya received orders from her supervisor to assist Turner with the investigation. As soon as she entered his home, she immediately smelled the strong odor of alcohol. The house was messy and cluttered, resembling a pigsty. However, Naya tried her best not to let her feelings show on her face. Calmly, she reported to Turner that the police fingerprint database had found no matches for the victim's fingerprints. Regarding the park side, the requests for employee records had already been sent and were awaiting approval. Turner instructed Naya to carefully check the records of all park employees, especially noting anyone who had been absent suspiciously in recent days, because it was highly possible that the victim's attacker could be among the park's staff. Seeing a photograph of Turner's son on the table, Naya suddenly shared that she too had a young child. Naya tried various methods to connect personally with her new colleague, but Turner continued to remain cold and indifferent, neither friendly nor outright distant. Soon afterward, Turner quickly changed his clothes and walked outside, intending to further investigate the identity of the unknown girl, entirely ignoring Naya, who was still waiting. Naya stood there feeling awkward, unsure whether to continue waiting or leave. Finally, she decided to ask Turner whether they should inspect the park's campsites, hotels, or entrances to identify the victim. Turner replied plainly that this park was as big as the entire state of Rhode Island. It had 5 separate highway entrances and over 100,000 visitors every week. If they investigated each person individually, it would take forever. Naya realized that Turner was right, so she silently mounted her horse and followed him. The terrain was extremely rough in this area, making cars far less effective for traveling compared to horses. Turner carefully traced the mountain path, searching for clues left behind by the unknown girl. After searching for some time, Turner discovered an old abandoned hunting cabin halfway up the mountain. At the front of the cabin was a trail of dried, muddy footprints along with a bloody rope casually discarded on the ground. It appeared that the girl might have used this rope to stop her bleeding. Nearby on the wall were some newly carved strange symbols resembling drawings only local indigenous people could fully understand. At that exact moment, Naya heard a faint noise from behind the cabin door. Instinctively, she moved closer to check, but suddenly a large bear appeared outside. Without hesitation, Turner immediately fired his gun into the air, frightening the bear away. Afterward, the two continued along the mountain trail, searching for more clues. Not long after, they found the girl's shoes near a large pool of blood. Based on the chaotic footprints on the ground, at least 2 or 3 wolves had passed through this area. As they proceeded further, the blood traces gradually vanished. Turner carefully inspected the area and noticed a small scratch on the surface of a nearby rock. He followed the direction of the scratch and indeed found a bullet deeply embedded into a nearby tree trunk. After receiving this new information, the forensic team quickly re-examined the victim's body. This time, they clearly discovered a bullet wound on the back of her left thigh. X-ray images showed that the bullet had penetrated her body, grazed the femur, and exited. However, since this injury was mixed among numerous other wounds, the forensic team had missed it during the initial examination. Besides the theory that someone deliberately shot her, they also could not rule out the possibility that the victim accidentally shot herself with her own gun after hitting it against a rock. Turner immediately asked Naya to contact the Mariposa Ballistics Lab to analyze the bullet by tomorrow. When Turner returned home, he was surprised to see his ex-wife sitting at the door. Her visit this time was primarily to warn him not to disturb her life anymore. Their conversation was brief and ended unhappily. That evening, after his ex-wife left, Turner accidentally noticed that the beads from the victim's bracelet formed letters spelling out a phrase meaning "go away." Suddenly remembering something, Turner hastily opened an old photo album. He found a group photo from an outdoor adventure program called Wild Spirit held in 2011. This summer camp was held annually for 4 weeks each summer, but only from 2008 to 2011. Every participant received a commemorative bracelet. Each time the camp was held, around 100 such bracelets were distributed. But it had been over 10 years since then. Objects like bracelets could easily have been exchanged, thrown away, or lost. Although this clue was not absolutely certain, it at least opened a new direction for investigation. Naya decided to visit the park's archives to find a list of former campers from that year and cross-check them against current park employees. She would also pay attention to potential connections with Native American communities, since the strange symbols on the hunting cabin could not be ignored. Late that afternoon, while reviewing the summer camp photos, Naya received a text message from her ex-husband asking to see their son. It seemed everyone had their own troubles. Over the next few days, Turner continued patrolling the mountains and eventually found a medicine bottle hidden behind a small mound of dirt. However, the investigation into the bracelet was not progressing smoothly. When Supervisor Paul saw Naya looking at the camp photos, he brought out an entire box full of bracelets, explaining that after deciding to end the summer camp, the park management had retrieved all these bracelets to prevent unauthorized usage. Therefore, investigating the bracelet's origin would yield little value and only waste more time. However, after learning about this, Turner still did not request an end to the investigation, because in his view, investigation was always about wasting time until the real clue finally emerged clearly. After speaking, Turner immediately drove to a nearby fishing gear store. Without saying a word, he opened the car belonging to a store employee named Teddy. From inside the car, Turner took out a small bag of drugs. Teddy, a well-known local drug user, panicked and rushed over begging Turner to let him go. Ignoring Teddy's pleas, Turner pulled out the medicine bottle he had found earlier and asked Teddy who would mark a golden cross on a medicine bottle like this. Teddy hastily replied that he truly did not know. The drug dealers he knew wouldn't bother creating such a strange mark. Hearing this, Turner showed Teddy a photo of the unknown girl, asking him to help find out if anyone recognized the drug's origin or knew anything about the girl and the unusual tattoo on her body. If Teddy managed to find useful information, Turner promised to return the drug bag he'd found. Without waiting for a response, Turner immediately left. After leaving the fishing store, Turner visited a nearby resort hotel. This hotel was decorated with unique Native American motifs. Turner took out his phone comparing the symbols, but unfortunately found no meaningful clues. However, here, Turner unexpectedly ran into Supervisor Paul, so they decided to have dinner together. Not long before Turner's ex-wife had told Paul about Turner's frequent drunken calls to her around 2 in the morning. Paul was genuinely concerned about Turner's mental state. He wanted Paul, a long-time mutual friend, to advise Turner to move beyond his painful past. Through their conversation, it was revealed that Turner's drinking problem and marriage breakdown were closely related to someone named Caleb. After finishing dinner, Turner quickly left the restaurant and returned home. But as soon as he arrived, an investigator handling the Sanderson case appeared wanting to ask Turner about details from the past investigation. Besides the woman named Avalos who disappeared mysteriously, a businessman named Sean Sanderson from Stockton had also vanished during the same incident. Hence, the case was named the Sanderson case. In California, if someone remains missing for over 5 years, police can officially convert the missing person case into a homicide investigation. Back then, Turner had been in charge of the search operation for several weeks, so this investigator now sought more information from him. 2 days after Sanderson disappeared, Turner had found his abandoned vehicle on a small road outside the park. Several days later, 3 campers had called the police, claiming they saw someone who resembled Sanderson near the North Pine campground. However, when Turner went to investigate that area, he found no trace. Recently, Sanderson's family had discovered a note stating, "Meet CA at North Pine Campground." Hearing this, Turner no longer wanted to prolong the conversation and bluntly told the investigator that if there was new evidence, he should investigate immediately instead of wasting Turner's time. The investigator, however, persisted, asking if Turner's mental state at the time was stable enough to lead the search for Sanderson. Turner replied tersely that he was completely fine, then slammed the door. He collapsed onto the floor, breathing heavily in pain. The truth was that during that same period, Turner had experienced a terrible tragedy. His beloved son Caleb had drowned in a lake. Since then, Turner's entire world had collapsed. Even now, he frequently experienced hallucinations that Caleb was beside him. At that moment, there was another knock on the door. Turner hastily regained composure and opened it. Naya stood outside, completely unaware of Turner's emotional turmoil. She had come to inform him that toxicology tests on the unknown girl had shown no traces of drugs. After hearing Naya's report, Turner instructed her to prepare the horses. Once again, the two ventured deep into the park. At this point, Turner mentioned to Naya that he had found another medicine bottle. Currently, the contents were being analyzed, but he suspected it was a mixture of illegal substances. Since the unidentified girl did not use drugs, it would be logical for them to talk to known drug users for further clues. As soon as Turner finished speaking, a camp inhabited by hippies and longtime drug addicts appeared before their eyes. Turner explained to Naya that these people lived secretly inside the park, constantly changing locations to avoid detection by park rangers. The police and park staff typically turned a blind eye because total control was impossible. Turner took out the medicine bottle and directly asked the leader of the group if it was made by someone named Agu. The man replied that Agu was currently performing a spiritual ritual similar to a retreat and would not meet anyone for a short while. He also added that he didn't know why Agu had suddenly become so popular recently because a hunter named De Niro had also come looking for him the night before. Meanwhile, Naya took the unknown girl's photograph around, asking everyone if they recognized her. A young woman wearing blue sunglasses reacted very strangely, causing Naya to immediately suspect that she certainly knew the victim. However, the girl stayed completely silent, and other members of the hippie group became protective of her. To avoid any potential conflict, Naya had no choice but to retreat. Turner told Naya that continuing to question them under these circumstances would yield no further information. Afterward, Turner signaled Naya to go ahead, while he himself went in the opposite direction to continue investigating. Deep in the forest, a young deer covered in distinctive red spots was drinking water from a stream. Suddenly, a bullet flew out of nowhere, striking and killing the deer instantly. The hunter quickly tied the deer to his vehicle and drove back to his campsite. However, as he arrived, he saw a familiar horse standing nearby. Turner was sitting casually on a chair, apparently waiting for him. From their subsequent conversation, it became clear that this hunter was indeed De Niro. His job was to hunt deer infected with rabies to prevent the disease from spreading. Turner directly questioned De Niro as to why he had sought out a so-called sorcerer like Agu, since this had nothing to do with hunting rabid deer. De Niro replied that seeking Agu was merely a personal hobby of his. Turner immediately asked De Niro if he knew the girl who had fallen from El Capitan Cliff. De Niro casually responded that this kind of case had nothing to do with his department. Without further comment, Turner walked over and picked up De Niro's hunting rifle. De Niro immediately became tense and tried to stop him. Turner calmly explained that he only wanted to examine the rifle. If De Niro felt uneasy, he could hold Turner's own pistol in the meantime. Saying this, Turner handed his pistol to De Niro, took the hunting rifle, aimed it at a distant tree, and fired. The bullet lodged deep into the tree trunk. Turner walked over, retrieved the bullet, and left De Niro completely confused about what exactly Turner was trying to achieve. Meanwhile, Teddy went to a tattoo parlor he knew well to inquire about the unusual gold cross-shaped tattoo. However, the tattoo artist remained stubborn, repeatedly claiming he had never heard of such a tattoo. He added that using gold would damage the skin, and no one would be crazy enough to tattoo with gold. Yet, while the tattoo artist was speaking, a curly-haired man sitting on a sofa behind him continually glanced at Teddy with cautious eyes. After Teddy left the tattoo parlor, the artist quickly sent Teddy a text message warning him not to keep asking about that golden tattoo unless he wanted to get himself into trouble. Later that afternoon, after Teddy had finished shopping, he was about to get into his car when suddenly a masked person appeared in the back seat. The attacker immediately lunged forward, choking Teddy until he could no longer resist. At the same time, Turner had just returned to the police station and stopped a specialist named Malone who was preparing to leave after work. Turner handed Malone the bullet he had retrieved from De Niro's rifle, asking him to check if it matched the bullet found in the girl's leg. Malone sighed reluctantly, knowing he had to work overtime, and informed Turner that results would be available no earlier than tomorrow. The next day was Supervisor Paul and his wife Mary's 40th wedding anniversary. Most park employees attended the celebration. Turner was obligated to attend as well, even though this meant facing his ex-wife Jill in an extremely awkward situation. Even more awkwardly this time, Jill brought along her current husband. Seeing Jill there, Naya felt strangely familiar with her. A colleague named Old Chi explained to Naya that Jill was Turner's ex-wife, but since Naya had just been transferred from Los Angeles, she didn't yet know the details. Old Chi continued that, about 5 or 6 years earlier, Turner's son Caleb had gone hiking with a group of children, but unfortunately got lost. At first, people weren't too worried because Caleb frequently went hiking with Turner and knew the area well. However, despite searching for almost a full day, there was still no trace. It was later revealed that a mentally ill person had secretly abducted Caleb when no one was paying attention. 2 days later, Turner found Caleb's body in Pine Lake. To this day, the killer had never been identified. Turner completely collapsed at the time, taking several months off work and sinking deeply into alcohol. If not for Supervisor Paul's help, he would probably have lost his job entirely. Old Chi sighed and remarked how terrifying the wilderness could be, awakening the darkest aspects within human beings. Hearing this, Naya finally understood why Turner always maintained a distant, indifferent attitude toward everyone. At the same time, elsewhere, a group of young people were playing a daring game, jumping from cliffs into the lake to experience thrills. A young girl named Shelby jumped first. However, immediately after entering the water, Shelby was horrified to see Teddy's corpse floating right in front of her. At this point, the news of Teddy's death had not yet reached the police. Naya was carefully reviewing each name from the summer camp participant list, comparing the photos with the unidentified girl. Unexpectedly, she discovered that the list included a girl named Lucy Cook, who had gone missing back in 2010. However, when Naya searched online, she could only find one childhood photo of Lucy. Naya immediately sent both photos to her colleague Sam, requesting a facial comparison. Meanwhile, Turner continued his regular mountain patrols. Suddenly, he discovered a clear footprint deeply imprinted in the soil, precisely matching the shoes of the unknown girl. Turner followed the footprints, but soon the trail became unclear. However, he found some strands of red hair caught on a low tree branch nearby. Right at that moment, Turner received a message informing him that Teddy had died. He felt immense grief, realizing that he had inadvertently dragged Teddy into this investigation. Shortly afterward, Turner's phone rang again, this time from Naya. She reported that she had finally identified the unknown girl. The victim was indeed Lucy Cook. Lucy had disappeared on July 19, 2010, when she was only 7 years old. Her disappearance was reported by her father, who at that time lived in a house within the national park boundaries. Now, Turner understood why the victim had seemed so familiar. Back then, he himself had handled Lucy's disappearance. At the time, the case had no signs of forced entry and no ransom demands. However, traces of Lucy's blood had been found on the carpet inside the house. Everyone believed her father was responsible for her disappearance. Consequently, 1 year after Lucy vanished, her father Rory was brutally murdered by local residents. Although there was no definitive evidence proving Rory's guilt, people always hated child killers and took matters into their own hands. Lucy's mother Maggie had previously worked in the park's administrative office for many years, but 3 weeks before Lucy disappeared, she had died of cancer. Now, both of Lucy's parents were gone, leaving her with only a half-brother named James who lived in Fresno. Turner decided he needed to visit James immediately. During the drive, Turner instructed his colleagues to retrieve Teddy's phone call records from the past 48 hours. Seeing Turner depart, Naya immediately followed him. Midway through their journey, the laboratory called with the analysis results for the drug Turner had previously found. The pills contained various common narcotics combined into a highly dangerous mixture. Turner asked Naya to contact the Mariposa Police Department to see if they had encountered similar drugs or any bottles marked with a golden cross. Soon afterward, the two arrived at James's apartment. Turner asked Naya to wait outside while he knocked on the door. After knocking several times, no one answered. A moment later, a young man wearing a hood and carrying a large bag approached. Upon seeing Turner standing at the door, he threw the bag down and ran. Turner drew his gun searching for the man, but found no trace. Just then, James unexpectedly attacked Turner from behind. Fortunately, Naya had ignored Turner's earlier instructions and arrived in time to help him subdue James. Afterward, James explained that he had fled because he mistakenly believed Turner was there to collect a large debt. At first, he had even suspected Turner was impersonating a police officer. When Turner and Naya asked about Lucy, James firmly insisted he had not seen his sister for 15 years and did not even know anything about her recent life. When Turner mentioned the golden cross-shaped symbol, James appeared completely puzzled and had no useful information to offer. Realizing they could obtain nothing further from James, the two investigators reluctantly left. On their way back, Turner shared with Naya that when Lucy initially disappeared, both her father and half-brother claimed they did not know where the blood stain on the carpet had come from. They insisted they only noticed Lucy was missing the following day. Naya speculated that perhaps Lucy's father or half-brother had physically abused her, prompting her to run away from home in fear. At this point, Naya recalled the blue-eyed girl from the hippie camp and strongly wished to return there to investigate further. However, Turner was currently too occupied dealing with Teddy's death to accompany her. Meanwhile, because Turner refused to disclose details about the investigation, the park manager had no answers for the relentless questions posed by the media. Ultimately, the manager decided to submit an official request to have Turner transferred elsewhere. Unable to help Turner further, Paul urged him to reveal his true suspicions. Turner finally admitted he believed both Lucy and Teddy had been murdered and that these cases were likely connected. So far, the police only knew that Lucy had been shot with a hunting rifle, but still lacked sufficient evidence to declare that a serial killer was active in the national park. Later that day, Turner received ballistics results from Malone. The bullet extracted from Lucy's leg did not match the bullet from De Niro's hunting rifle. Thus, De Niro was cleared as a suspect. With this development, the investigation once again hit a dead end. Turner was deeply troubled as haunting images of his deceased son Caleb again flooded his mind, causing him severe emotional distress. In the end, Turner decided to seek the company of a friend, hoping to ease his heavy heart through the long night. Turner confessed openly to his friend that a few days earlier he had seriously considered throwing himself into the very lake where Caleb had drowned, intending to disappear completely from this world. But just before carrying out that plan, he received a call notifying him about a girl who had fallen from a cliff. At that moment, Turner felt the case was quietly leading him, causing him temporarily to abandon his suicidal thoughts. Now, however, Turner blamed himself deeply, thinking if he had jumped into the lake earlier, perhaps Teddy would not have died unjustly. After hearing this, his friend gently comforted him, telling him softly that if he ever felt drawn to that lake again, he must call her first. The following day, Turner visited the house where Lucy's mother Maggie once lived. He asked the current owner if during recent years he had seen a young woman frequently visiting the property. Turner found it difficult to believe Lucy had never returned to the house where she once lived with her mother. However, the homeowner firmly insisted he had never encountered such a young woman. A Native American friend accompanying Turner criticized his attitude, suggesting that Turner's arrogance might have discouraged the homeowner from revealing the truth. This friend then handed Turner a bag of items, explaining these were things the homeowner had kept from Maggie after he moved in. Actually, the homeowner had indeed seen a young woman several times on the mountains near the house, but due to Turner's arrogant manner, he had chosen not to reveal it. The last time he saw this young woman was several months ago, but because each encounter was at a considerable distance, he was unsure of her exact appearance. Turner then showed a photo of the strange symbols carved on the cabin wall to his Native American friend, seeking his interpretation. His friend explained that these symbols belong to an ancient magical ritual from the Womic tribe traditionally used to ward off evil spirits. Meanwhile, Naya, realizing she could not rely on Turner's support, decided to ride horseback alone back to the hippie camp to seek out the blue-eyed girl. Although she wasn't completely familiar with the forest paths, Naya trusted that Turner's horse knew the route well enough to prevent her from getting lost. Unfortunately, reality quickly proved she had greatly overestimated the horse's abilities. After wandering around aimlessly, Naya vaguely spotted the silhouette of a young girl standing in the distance. Completely unaware, Naya was being closely watched from afar through a rifle scope. Luckily, it was De Niro, observing her not a murderer. Naya continued following the small footprints on the ground, eventually discovering what appeared to be a hidden cellar entrance. Inside it was dark, and a strange mask lay nearby. As Naya called out to see if anyone was inside, she suddenly fell into a deep pit. The walls of the pit were smooth and impossible to climb. Gathering her courage, she continued deeper into the darkness, hoping to find another way out. Meanwhile, Turner followed clues from Teddy's text messages to locate the tattoo shop. Upon arrival, he directly confronted the shop's owner, asking why he had warned Teddy to stop inquiring about the golden tattoo. However, the shop owner adamantly refused to provide any useful information. At that moment, the sky began turning gloomy, and a light rain started to fall. When Turner returned home, he noticed Naya's car parked outside. He immediately checked the horse stable, discovering one horse missing. Observing the increasingly heavy rain, Turner felt uneasy and quickly rode into the forest to search for Naya. Meanwhile, as Naya ventured deeper into the cave, the passages became increasingly narrow. Rainwater gradually flowed inside, making her movements even more difficult. Eventually, Naya found a small opening she believed might lead outside, but it proved extremely narrow. She was forced to remove all her protective gear in an attempt to squeeze through. However, after passing halfway through the gap, she became completely stuck, unable to move forward or backward. Rainwater steadily poured into the cave, threatening to drown her. In her moment of greatest despair, Naya suddenly heard Turner's voice behind her. However, the gap was far too narrow for an adult man like Turner to enter. Instead, Turner calmly encouraged Naya, instructing her to breathe slowly, remain calm, and gradually move backward. Perhaps due to Turner's reassuring presence, Naya regained her composure, following his directions carefully until she successfully freed herself. Turner had already secured a rope, making their climb back out much easier. As they exited the cave, Turner picked up the strange mask, believing it could be an important clue. After leaving the forest, Naya rushed to the daycare to pick up her son, still deeply shaken by the day's terrifying experience. That night, Naya lay next to her son, unable to stop trembling. Meanwhile, after returning home, Turner opened the bag given to him earlier by Maggie's home's current owner. Inside was an old photograph of Lucy as a young child. Turner stared at the photo, silently wondering about the terrible experiences this innocent little girl had endured during her years of disappearance. At this point, Naya received feedback from the Mariposa police. They confirmed that recently many new drug mixtures had appeared on the market, though their origins remained unclear. Turner decided to revisit the secret cave once more for further examination. Together, they carefully avoided the unstable cave floor, slowly advancing deeper inside. Around this area, thousands of abandoned gold mines existed, yet Turner had previously been unaware of this cave's existence. It appeared to be a tunnel system dating back to the 1850s, making it extremely old. The further they proceeded, the hotter and more suffocating the air became. Turner worried about the presence of toxic gases such as arsenic, which explained the gas mask previously found near the entrance. Just as they prepared to move forward, Turner suddenly sensed something wrong. He quickly shouted at Naya to close her eyes as a massive swarm of bats immediately rushed past them toward the exit. Once the bats had passed, they discovered numerous bottles identical to the drugs they had found earlier. Clearly, someone had been using this old mine to manufacture or distribute drugs, and Lucy had likely become involved in this operation. Right at the cave entrance, they also discovered human teeth marks. Signs of scavenging birds were evident, suggesting the victim had lain there for quite some time. Turner immediately called expert Morris to the scene for closer examination. Morris concluded that the victim had likely been attacked by vultures typical of this region, followed by some crows joining the feast. He estimated the body had remained there for at least 5 or 6 days. Turner assigned Morris the task of searching for the rest of the remains, while he and Naya took the recently discovered skull back with them. Morris explained to Turner that vultures typically circled high above searching for corpses. Due to their large size, vultures could not easily take flight from the ground directly. Therefore, when searching for bodies, it was useful to observe nearby tall trees and low bushes, where birds often perched before descending onto a corpse. Morris quickly located brain matter on a nearby tree trunk. Not far from this tree was Agu's body, clearly exhibiting a gunshot wound to the head. Morris theorized that Agu had been shot near this tree, causing fragments of his brain to splatter onto it. Naya immediately informed Turner of this new development. In response, Turner went to the hippie camp, tossing Agu's distinctive dentures in front of Glory, the group's leader. Turner remembered Glory and Agu had been lovers. Turner informed Glory that Agu's murderer was likely responsible for several recent murders in the park. Seeing numerous police officers surrounding the camp, Glory realized the situation was dire. The blue-eyed girl returned just then, carrying water, becoming terrified upon seeing police surrounding their home. Within moments, Glory and several others were arrested. Police discovered a bottle marked with the golden cross hidden inside Glory's dwelling, a crucial piece of evidence. Now, if Glory cooperated and revealed everything she knew, the police could quickly connect all the dots. However, Glory adamantly denied having additional information. She insisted she had merely obtained the drugs from Agu. Glory explained that when she was 50, the company she had worked for her entire life abruptly fired her. Even the dismissal letter misspelled her name. That same year, Glory discovered she had cancer, but lacking health insurance, she felt hopelessly condemned to death. Thus, she decided to abandon everything from the outside world, choosing to live hidden in the national park. Unexpectedly, 9 years later, despite having no medical treatment, she remained healthy. Glory claimed that whatever the police were investigating had nothing to do with her. She further insisted she had no interest in Lucy, and Agu would never involve himself in such matters. After Turner left the interrogation room, Paul approached him with Lucy's DNA test results. The results showed Rory was not Lucy's biological father. Paul speculated that even Rory himself was unaware of this, otherwise he wouldn't have continued raising Lucy after Maggie's death. At that exact moment, a shoe salesman named Mark from Foot Locker approached Turner. Mark grew up in a place called Yelton and recognized the recently discovered victim as someone who had lived in his neighborhood. However, at that time, Lucy had gone by a completely different name, Grace, and had lived with a pastor's family. Mark handed Turner a group photograph taken many years ago. He explained Lucy had suddenly disappeared approximately 10 years earlier. The pastor claimed Lucy had returned to live with her biological family. Mark admitted he hadn't come forward merely out of kindness, but hoped instead for a reward. Turner simply took the photograph and left Mark in Paul's care. Simultaneously, Naya finally located the blue-eyed girl hiding near the hippie camp. This girl confirmed that she had known Lucy. During their conversation, the blue-eyed girl revealed she had first met Lucy when she herself was 16 years old, and Lucy was living alone in the forest. The two girls relied on each other for several years until Lucy encountered a man named Thesis, a nickname rather than his real name. After Thesis entered her life, Lucy became involved in various troubles. Each time Lucy met him, she returned carrying drugs or money, and sometimes came back injured. One day, Lucy left and never returned. Following her disappearance, the blue-eyed girl occasionally spotted Lucy from a distance interacting with Agu. They regularly met in a secret canyon where Lucy placed drugs, and Agu retrieved them, leaving money behind. The last time the blue-eyed girl saw Lucy near that location was roughly a week before Lucy fell from the cliff. At that time, Lucy was alone, carrying a bag to deliver drugs with neither Agu nor Pakuna accompanying her. Pakuna Agu's friend often joined him on their spiritual journeys. Having shared all she knew, the blue-eyed girl quickly departed. Following the information provided by the girl, Naya discovered a small box buried in the canyon, but it was empty. According to expert Morris's previous calculations, Agu had already been dead when Lucy made her final delivery. Apart from Agu, only Pakuna knew the exact location of these drug exchanges. Earlier, when police raided the hippie camp, Pakuna had been arrested, but adamantly refused to reveal anything. Turner believed Pakuna might know who orchestrated Lucy and Agu's drug transportation. Turner reasoned that whoever was behind this likely had a base east of the cave. He planned to use a helicopter to survey the area thoroughly the following day, weather permitting, in hopes of uncovering further important clues. Afterward, Naya quickly picked up her son and returned home while Turner went once again to talk with De Niro. Previously, De Niro had admitted purchasing drugs from Agu for personal use, suggesting he might know more about the source of these narcotics. However, De Niro maintained he was merely an ordinary buyer with no additional information. Suddenly, De Niro shifted topics, mentioning Lucy's fall from El Capitan cliff. With an unusual tone, he remarked that Lucy was indeed a remarkable child, disappearing for so long, only to reappear miraculously. Turner immediately confronted De Niro, directly asking if he had known Lucy personally. However, rather than becoming nervous, De Niro instead began threatening Turner. He revealed that recently the Sanderson case investigator had come seeking information about Turner's past, implying that perhaps De Niro could conveniently remember certain things about Sanderson, potentially threatening Turner himself. The atmosphere between them grew tense until Paul unexpectedly arrived, interrupting their confrontation. Meanwhile, when Naya returned home, she found Mike, her son's father, waiting there. In fact, Mike was not Naya's ex-husband, as they had never married despite having a child together. Mike had formerly been a police officer, but had lost his job after becoming involved in stealing money during a drug raid. This time, Mike came to beg Naya to provide false testimony on his behalf, hoping to regain his former position. To protect her son, Naya reluctantly agreed to help him, but firmly demanded Mike promise never to disturb her or their son again after this. After speaking, Naya took her son into the bathroom. Mike, wanting to bond with his son, entered the bathroom soon afterward, only to discover both Naya and their child had already vanished. Turner, returning home, saw Naya sitting outside his door, tightly holding her son. Being newly transferred here, she had no close friends to rely upon. Mike was violent and mentally unstable, and although a court had already issued a restraining order, no one could be certain what Mike might do next. Unwilling to leave her son alone, Naya sought Turner's help. Turner arranged for Jill to assist in caring for the child temporarily. Once the child was settled safely, Turner and Naya used a helicopter to thoroughly search the canyon area. However, from above they saw only dense trees, revealing no useful clues. Turner instructed Naya to call Old Chi and arrange for Pakuna to be brought there, releasing him back into the forest without any possessions. Turner planned to secretly track Pakuna, hoping he would unwittingly lead them directly to the drug operation's hidden base. Indeed, upon his release, Pakuna immediately headed deeper into the mountain tunnels, donning a gas mask before entering a more concealed cave. Following several winding paths, he reached the drug gang's secret hideout. Pakuna reported to a heavily bearded man that park rangers had cleared out their hippie camp and he had been arrested, but assured him he had not revealed anything. Unbeknownst to Pakuna, his movements had been closely monitored by Turner and Naya, successfully exposing the hidden base's location. Turner swiftly prepared to lead law enforcement officers into the cave to capture the criminals. As soon as Turner and Naya entered the tunnel, gunshots suddenly rang out ahead. Both quickly pressed themselves against the stone walls, narrowly avoiding incoming fire. Turner waited carefully for an opening, then returned fire, successfully hitting one of the criminals hiding behind the rocks. The team cautiously moved deeper into the tunnel, only to discover another hidden exit. Realizing their situation, the drug traffickers had already escaped through this secret passage. A park ranger opened a cabinet to investigate and accidentally triggered a hidden bomb, which immediately exploded, seriously injuring 2 officers. Turner quickly called in rescue units to assist. At the same moment, he heard faint sounds coming from the rear tunnel exit. Turner and Naya rushed toward it, discovering another criminal guarding this route. Turner immediately subdued the guard, after which both investigators rapidly climbed upward toward the surface. Suddenly, a pickup truck raced toward them. Turner and Naya simultaneously fired at its tires, causing the vehicle to lose control and its driver to be thrown onto the mountainside. Turner swiftly approached, kicking away the man's weapon and arresting him officially. At last, the investigation achieved a significant breakthrough, allowing the park manager to finally offer the media a clear explanation. After detailed examination, police discovered 2 abandoned mines had been repurposed by the criminal group for manufacturing and distributing drugs. Nearby, they uncovered several additional victims' bodies. These victims were all young women, whom the traffickers referred to as drug mules. Each victim had the distinctive golden cross tattoo on their arms, marking them clearly as transporters, distinguishing them from buyers to avoid confusion during drug exchanges. It seemed these young women had all been murdered once they were no longer useful to the traffickers. In the cave, police found 4 beds, but only 3 bodies. Turner suspected the empty bed might have belonged to Lucy. Checking carefully beneath it, he quickly discovered Lucy's backpack containing the dress her mother Maggie had worn shortly before her death. At this moment, De Niro appeared again near the crime scene, claiming he was merely observing the commotion. Turner, however, still strongly suspected De Niro, ordering officers to monitor him closely and arrest him immediately if he came any closer. Afterward, Turner returned home to treat his wounds. Based on current developments, Lucy likely had been killed by the drug gang. Yet all arrested suspects continued insisting they had nothing to do with her death. After tending to his injuries, Turner resumed interrogating the drug gang's leader. Turner wanted to understand why they had killed Agu. Was it because Agu had stolen drugs or attempted to set up his own distribution network? Yet, the leader stubbornly maintained he had never known Agu. Turner then presented a photo of Teddy's corpse. The leader coldly remarked that perhaps Teddy had been killed by a shark. Turner calmly took out Teddy's driver's license found directly inside their hideout, mockingly asking if a shark had also conveniently delivered this license to him. Even so, the leader remained silent and unyielding, providing no further information. Turner decided to change tactics, individually interrogating the other gang members. He falsely claimed their leader had placed full blame for Lucy's murder on them, yet none fell for the deception. This caused Turner to reconsider his assumptions. Perhaps Lucy truly had not been killed by the traffickers. When Turner showed Lucy's photograph to the gang leader, he clearly appeared shocked and disturbed rather than calm as before. Observing this reaction, Naya suggested it was not surprise, but possibly genuine emotional distress, because he might have had real feelings for Lucy. Previously, the blue-eyed girl had mentioned Lucy was romantically involved with someone in the drug group, making it plausible the leader himself had once been Lucy's lover. Seeing Lucy's corpse in such a terrible condition might have overwhelmed him. Nevertheless, Turner maintained his skepticism, pointing out the gang's highly professional killing methods. Agu had been executed swiftly with a shot to the head. Teddy had been strangled and their bodies efficiently disposed of. In contrast, Lucy had been shot in the leg, fleeing desperately all night before finally falling from the cliff. Such chaotic circumstances did not match the criminals' usual methodical approach. With the investigation back at square one, Turner urgently instructed ballistics to test the gang leader's weapon, determining conclusively whether it had been used to shoot Lucy. Next, Turner carefully marked on a map the exact route Lucy had taken from the time she was shot until she fell off the cliff. Interestingly, the location where he had found the golden cross-marked bottle did not lie along Lucy's escape route. Turner questioned why Lucy deliberately traveled there. He decided to return to that location again, hoping to uncover the answer. However, before he could act, Turner received an urgent call from home. Mike had shown up demanding to take back his child, even attacking Jill in the process. Turner swiftly returned, reported Mike to the authorities, and resolved the situation, ensuring Mike was removed safely. Naya and her son also returned home unharmed. But before Turner could relax, another issue emerged. The park manager decided to hand the entire Lucy investigation along with related cases over to a newly arrived investigator. This person would swiftly conclude the investigations, aiming to minimize further damage to the park's reputation and revenue. Turner was left with no choice but to hand over all the case files to the new investigator. As soon as Turner finished handing over all the case files to the new investigator, he realized a crucial backpack had been overlooked. Intending to return it, Turner noticed a hidden pocket containing a cell phone. He decided to secretly keep the cell phone, temporarily hoping Lucy had stored important information on it. However, the phone was protected by facial recognition. Turner reluctantly brought it to the morgue to attempt unlocking it using Lucy's face. Utilizing biometric data from a corpse was complicated, as even slight errors could prevent unlocking. Turner asked the forensic doctor to gently warm the facial tissues with formaldehyde, tricking the facial recognition sensor into believing the face was alive. Surprisingly, this unusual method worked. Lucy's phone was quite old, containing no contacts, as if it were used only for recording daily events. While examining videos and pictures, Turner unexpectedly recognized De Niro's figure appearing in one of the recordings. Immediately, Turner phoned Naya, instructing her that if she didn't hear from him within 24 hours, she should find his truck and search the glove compartment where he had hidden Lucy's cell phone as backup evidence. Afterward, Turner quickly called Jill, openly admitting to his ex-wife that he intended to arrest De Niro, believing De Niro responsible for Lucy's death and the drug trafficking operations in the park. However, Turner realized arresting De Niro would likely provoke De Niro into revealing secrets connected to the Sanderson case, potentially causing Turner serious trouble. Turner decided to confront De Niro himself before official police action. Following smoke rising from deep within the forest, Turner quickly identified De Niro's current hiding spot. Arriving there, he saw no one and began searching for additional evidence. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out from behind, severely wounding Turner in his side. As De Niro approached to check, Turner swiftly applied mud to stop the bleeding and used a nearby stream to escape De Niro's sight. Nonetheless, De Niro was highly skilled at tracking through the forest and soon closed in again. Turner climbed a large rock for better visibility, but saw no sign of De Niro. Suddenly, sunlight reflected from a rifle scope and a bullet shattered Turner's rifle. Drawing his pistol, Turner returned fire several times as he rapidly retreated from his exposed position. Sliding down a slope, he grabbed branches to break his fall, then continued fleeing deeper into the forest. De Niro relentlessly pursued until nightfall. Finally spotting warm blood on the ground, De Niro knew Turner was nearby. Severely weakened by blood loss, Turner could no longer run, and his pistol was now empty. De Niro approached slowly, coldly stating it was finally time for Turner to join his dead son, Caleb. But just as De Niro prepared to fire, another gunshot echoed from behind. De Niro immediately collapsed. Naya had quickly entered the forest after Turner's earlier call, arriving just in time to save him. De Niro's death strongly indicated he was indeed Lucy's killer and the mastermind behind the drug operation. Later at De Niro's residence, Naya discovered large amounts of hidden cache drugs and weapons, all promptly sent for ballistics testing against the gunshot that injured Lucy. Meanwhile, Jill finally breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing Turner had survived the encounter. She then decided it was time to confess a painful truth to her current husband. Jill revealed that Sean Sanderson, the man who had vanished years ago, was actually Caleb's killer. Turner had discovered this truth through a video secretly recorded by De Niro, using wildlife surveillance cameras hidden throughout the park. That footage had unintentionally captured Sanderson murdering Caleb. De Niro had shown this video to Turner and Jill at the time, urging Turner to seek revenge against Sanderson. However, Turner always adhered strictly to principles, preferring to hand Sanderson over to police and the courts. Jill, however, couldn't bear the thought of their son's brutal murder becoming public gossip, so she secretly hired De Niro to lure Sanderson into the park and kill him. Turner discovered this betrayal just as Sanderson disappeared, which ultimately led to their marriage collapsing entirely. Jill now decided to reveal everything, fully aware her new husband might abandon her, but she accepted whatever consequences might follow. Meanwhile, Turner's Native American friend arrived at his home requesting Lucy's body be returned to her tribe. He expressed his wish to send Lucy back to her mother, respectfully following traditional customs. Turner informed him Rory was not Lucy's biological father. Stunned, his friend asked if police had identified Lucy's real father. Turner replied they had not yet determined the truth, but he would certainly ensure Lucy's remains were returned to her tribe. Determined, Turner set out to resolve this final mystery, finding Lucy's biological father. He immediately traveled to visit the pastor's family with whom Lucy had lived years earlier. Turner arrived at the pastor's home only to find an elderly woman suffering from dementia alone inside. It appeared she was likely the pastor's wife. Exploring further, Turner descended into the basement, discovering several small beds intended for orphan children previously adopted by the pastor. Carved onto one of these beds was a unique Native American symbol, strongly suggesting Lucy once slept there. Since the elderly woman was no longer capable of providing useful information, Turner took Lucy's photo to a nearby bar, searching for Faith, the pastor's daughter. Upon seeing Lucy's photo, Faith immediately recognized her. Faith explained that although her father didn't personally kidnap those children, he certainly wasn't a good man either. He had adopted numerous orphans solely to collect government support payments, which he then entirely used to buy drugs. The children living there suffered greatly, often confined in the basement. Lucy endured this miserable existence for several years before finally escaping. When Turner asked about Faith's father's current whereabouts, she replied honestly that she had no idea, adding that she secretly hoped her cruel father was already dead somewhere in misery. As Turner prepared to leave, Faith ran after him, mentioning Lucy had once claimed her biological father might be a police officer. Turner instantly recalled Lucy's earlier DNA results previously delivered to Paul. He quickly went to confront Paul directly. Paul shamefully admitted that Lucy was indeed his biological daughter. Lucy's mother Maggie had come to Paul before her death, begging him to care for Lucy. For Paul, secretly taking Lucy away had been easy. Everyone knew Rory was physically abusive toward Maggie and Lucy. Thus, if Lucy disappeared, Rory would automatically become the prime suspect. After secretly removing Lucy, Paul found a pastor willing to care for her discreetly in exchange for regular payments. At first, Paul promised Lucy he would soon return to bring her home. But after Rory was murdered as revenge for Lucy's disappearance, Paul feared exposure would cost him his job and his marriage. He abandoned Lucy, breaking his promise, never returning to her again. Years later, Lucy escaped and returned pleading with Paul to acknowledge her, yet he coldly rejected her again, merely offering to find another place for her to stay. Paul's coldness plunged Lucy into despair, after which she never contacted him again. Hearing Paul's confession, Turner demanded he hand over his gun immediately for ballistics testing to see if it matched the bullet that wounded Lucy. Paul desperately insisted he could never kill his own daughter, but Turner remained firm, calling for backup. Realizing his situation, Paul finally admitted that Lucy had recently begun blackmailing him. Initially, Paul easily complied with her demands, but Lucy gradually wanted more, eventually threatening to publicly reveal their true relationship. One time, Lucy even secretly took Paul's granddaughter deep into the forest, causing Paul immense panic. Fortunately, his granddaughter was later found safely near Maggie's old home. Furious at Lucy's recklessness, Paul tried to intimidate her, but Lucy fled. In his anger, Paul shot Lucy in the leg. Lucy, believing her father intended to kill her, ran frantically through the night, eventually climbing to the cliff's edge. Reflecting hopelessly on happy memories with her mother, she chose to end her own life. This tragic truth left Turner no choice but to report Paul to the police for justice. In panic, Paul drew his gun to stop Turner, but lacking the resolve to harm his friend, he instead turned the gun on himself. Moments later, a gunshot echoed. Paul's body collapsed into a nearby stream. Though Paul wasn't evil enough to murder Turner, he also lacked the courage to face the consequences of his actions. Finally, Lucy's remains were returned to her tribe and respectfully cremated according to tradition. Her spirit could now reunite peacefully with her mother, finally experiencing the warmth and protection she had long desired. After enduring these painful events, Turner decided it was time to leave Yosemite National Park. He left behind his horse along with Caleb's childhood toys for Naya, preparing himself for a fresh start somewhere far away. With this, the season concluded its story. Besides the compelling and emotional storyline, the spectacular beauty of Yosemite National Park cannot go unmentioned. Every scenic shot of nature in this series was so breathtakingly beautiful that it could easily serve as a wallpaper. The film provided unexpected twists alongside profound reflections on human nature. No one could have anticipated that the person ultimately driving Lucy toward despair and death was neither her abusive stepfather nor the drug traffickers, but rather her own biological father, who repeatedly abandoned her. Despite enduring immense suffering throughout her life, Lucy's strong spirit had never truly broken. Yet a single careless shot fired by her own father shattered Lucy's final hope, prompting her tragic decision. However, the film did have its drawbacks, notably a somewhat slow pacing. If editors had been more meticulous removing unnecessary details, the viewing experience could certainly have been improved significantly.